Friday and the trading week wrapping it up, so to speak. Hope everybody had a good week of trading. And just to recap a little bit, we talked about this box a couple times this week. Uh, as you can see, each time it was tested, we couldn't close inside of it, and that's what happened. Prices rejected, tested here, couldn't close, rejected, tested here, couldn't close, rejected. Today, the market gapped up, opened, and closed in it. I know for me, what I should say for me, this type of analysis is not something new, so I trust this type of analysis. But again, here we tested it, we couldn't close in it. So when you see this being a resistance area, and we couldn't successfully reject this low, and we opened and closed within it, that to me, within the first 30 minutes of the market, gave me a lot of information as to what I should be looking for. And so by itself, that is a lot of information for me. Now we easily cleared the top, and then what happened is it became support, and we tested it 2 times here on the S&Ps. Some other information that was very helpful, this high here, NQ gapped right above it in the morning, which was also important information. And so when you see something like this within the first 30 minutes and you see major support and resistance cleared, and you've had about 30 minutes of the market that you've watched 30 minutes of, which is approximately, that's 10 o'clock. So by that point, you see that information, and if you're trading the E-minis, which a lot of you do, you take a look at your internals, and what you see on the ticks, you see the tick trend up, it's green color. Okay, ticks are spending a lot of time above zero. Volume breadth by 10 o'clock, it was right here. Basically, this is a signature, flatlining right at the highs. Okay, signature of a trend. When the ticks are also bullish, and the next thing is you want to make sure that the ADD also opened and pushed up, making higher highs. And so when you start seeing all of that, it's automatically a warning sign that a potential trend day is possible. You don't know how long that trend, if it's going to be a couple of hours or if it's going to last the entire day. You don't know that initially in the morning, and you don't need to, because you just need to know what's going on right now. And unless you want to put on a trade and hold and just walk away from your computer and come back at 4 o'clock. But when you start seeing that information, it's very helpful because you can start taking trades, just taking shallow pullbacks, because you know there's a lot of momentum in the markets in the morning, and particularly when there's a trend with the internals backing it up. So you have these 4 places where you could trade. For me, the Z-Kelter channel strategies are my trend trading strategies. So just put the Zuna paint bars on there, and when the trend of both of them match, I know I have a strong trend. And you take just basically trade the trend. As simple as that. What you don't want to do is fuel this uptrend. Of course, if you don't fuel the uptrend, so then we can't take the bullish trend trades, because what happens is there are some that will trade the same strategy every single day the same way, and they short here, and what happens, I'll show you on this chart, they short here and they come back, and market comes back, needs those stops to fuel the trend, blows right through them on heavy volume, which you can see on the paint bars on this bar, makes higher highs, which entices buyers to come back and buy the next pullback, and that just keeps going and keeps going until the market can't close successfully above. Why can't it? The reason it can't, because there are not enough stops up here any longer. That there are not enough stops to fuel the uptrend, and when that happens, that's your signal that the trend has lost momentum. And now you need to switch. You need to pick your spots a lot more carefully using support and resistance area, zones or levels. Another big clue for me that helps me a lot is when I see volume breadth flatline like this, and the Zuna and the tick trend. What I want to also see, and this is the way I don't get fooled, is I want to see the ADD, which represents the broader market. I want it to make higher highs, and when by here S&P made this high, it couldn't make another higher high, and then it made another high, it couldn't make another higher high, the ADD couldn't. I knew something was wrong, broader market was just not trending. And at the same time here, when the ADD didn't make that high, we couldn't close above the prior high. When that happens, then you pick your spots much more carefully, and by that time it's close to noon time, so you can take a break. But if you do want to still trade the long side, because there's a big bias on the long side, you need to use support and resistance. And your method of support and resistance could be as simple as using the prior swing low, or could be as sophisticated as you want it. Obviously, if you're using something that's much more sophisticated, then you're going to have a lot better results. And that's that. So hopefully you guys were able to catch this trend in the morning. The afternoon was not that pretty. S&Ps couldn't push any higher. But next week, Monday, the economic calendar is quite light. So I think Monday is just going to be an easygoing trading day. Probably the morning we'll see some good action. Depends. And next Thursday and Friday should be good trading days. The economic calendar is pretty filled up. Have a good weekend.